Hello there. Hello, hello. It is Niki Ramirez here with HR Answers, and I am coming to you today from our HR Answers home office with our last webinar of 2019. Very excited to be touching base and sharing some information and tools for powerful planning and goal setting as we go into 2020. So just a quick reminder as we get started, and another thank you for joining us here. We are on a GoToWebinar platform today where you will be able to interact a little bit during the session if you so choose. And in addition to that, you will be able to access some handouts during the session. And so as we get started, I just wanted to make mention that in your attendee control panel, you will be able to download, first of all, our slides for today. And so I'll go ahead and click those open so that you'll see what that document looks like. It's a PDF document of our slides, and the document is called Keys to Powerful Planning and Goal Setting. So please make sure to go ahead and download your copy. And as always, if you have any trouble downloading your copy of the handouts today, please don't hesitate to let me know, and I can send them over to you in an email. All right, so we've got a couple of options for communicating during the session today. We have a questions box where you can type privately to me, and you also have the option of raising your hand during the session. So I may ask questions and invite you to raise your hand if you have thought about the topic that I'm talking about, or if you have ideas, raise your hand and then drop a note into the question box. So that's a little tour of our GoToWebinar platform. And always, as we go through, please do feel free to send me a message if you're having any technical difficulties. All right, so without further ado, again, it's Niki Ramirez here. I'm the founder and principal consultant at HRAnswers.org, which is an HR consulting firm that is dedicated to providing employees and their leaders with impactful and practical support and advice so that you can all create workplaces that you love to participate in. So that's our goal today. We're going to talk a little bit about planning and goal setting from a personal standpoint and also a professional standpoint. So I'm hoping that you will find this helpful, both from a professional and a personal view. So as we go through today, our plan, of course, I wanted to share with you as we jump in. Our plan for this session is to go through and get introductions to a little framework that we have put together that is working here at HR Answers and is working for me professionally as well. So I wanted to share with you the HR Answers framework for powerful goal setting, which we call IMPACT. And so I'll share that with you. And we want to take a little bit of time to also be reminded of a tried and true process for goal setting, which is using SMART goals. So we'll take a little bit of a look at that. And after we talk about the process of planning and goal setting, I wanted to make sure that you left today feeling empowered and had plenty of samples, tools, and practical ideas at hand so that you could jump right into your 2020 planning and make 2020 the success that you and I both know that it can be. And then on from tools, I will provide you with a little bit of information about a special offer that I have for each of you who are participating in this session. And this is an offer that is available whether you are on with me live today or you are listening to the recorded session. So stay tuned for that. And the last piece I will share with you is a few next steps and an extra credit assignment as always. So as we get going, I think that this session in particular is worthy of just a deep breath and taking a moment to get focused before we really dive in and talk about the framework and process for goal setting. So as we get focused for the session and for the day and for a successful 2020, I just want you to take a moment to take a deep breath. So we can do that together. Let's do it again. Take a deep breath in your nose and out your mouth. This is a busy time of year. I'm broadcasting here right on December 23rd, our live broadcast. So thank you for joining me. Those of you who are on live today, super overachievers. still kind of chugging along before the holidays really get underway in jest. So want to take a deep breath, get focused, and really set our intentions that we are going to come away from this session with some great ideas and a little bit of fire under us to get focused on 2020. All right, so the first thing that I would encourage everyone to do when we are thinking about ways to really step into powerful planning and goal setting, and this is the kind of goal setting where we are feeling super proud of ourselves when we are able to check things off the list as the year goes on. So that's how I define powerful planning and goal setting. This is the kind of planning and goal setting that folks really can take a look back on and be proud that you engaged in it, that you had a vision for your year or your quarter or your month or your day, whatever it might be. But you take a look back and you say, wow, it's pretty impressive what I have been able to do. So the first thing that I want you to do is take a little bit of time to reflect. And these are some reflection questions that I have gathered over the years. The first one coming from an interaction that I had with a great leader back in about 1998 when I worked for the Kyrene School District. My leader, Candy, walked us through this activity one time when we were talking about goals for the upcoming school year. And she really pushed us to align our personal and professional goals. And so I will be forever thankful to her for that. She was the first person that really showed me and told me that it was okay to weave together our personal and professional lives. And so that's really a philosophy that I have adopted and held on to over the years. I think that our personal and professional lives are forever intertwined. And for that reason, I want us to think about as we go forward, when we are setting our plan and our goals for the next year and beyond, why are we doing it? What does it tie back into in our life that makes it so important? And so that is where this first question comes from. In life, what have been your top 3 defining moments? Lots of times these defining moments launch us into our careers and our most important relationships in life. So taking some time to reflect on that is a good place to start. Because we are at the turn of a decade, I also wanted to share this question. How would I like the upcoming decade to be different than the last? When we have time to look back on the previous decade, I'm sure there are things that we will be proud of and things that we wish had gone differently. And from a go forward perspective, I want us to think about what we are going to do in the next decade. So a very long-term goal here, or long-term vision anyway, that, what are we wanting to see come out differently? Okay. Another piece that I think is a fun and interesting question is this third one. So if I didn't care what anyone thought or how much money I could make doing it, how would I spend my time? And we all have the same 24 hours in a day and 365 days in a year. And my wish for you is that how you fill your time is something that you are thankful for and proud of, all at the same time. So, lots of times we think about this as like if I could get paid to do my hobby, what would it be, right? And so I want you to think about that, because as you set your goals and your plan, your intentions for 2020 and beyond, I believe that it is possible to weave in the things that you love that seem to be outside of work, to weave them into our work lives as well. And so I'll share a little bit more about that later. And a simple question here, number 4, what is one thing about myself that I would like to improve, or a skill perhaps that you are hoping to increase proficiency in, or a new activity that you are looking to take on? So what is something that you'd like to improve or learn? And what is one thing in life that you are most proud of? So when we think about where we're headed, again, we want to think about where we've been and what brings us the most joy and satisfaction, and try to duplicate and recreate that as much as possible. So this is your first step to planning and goal setting for a spectacular 2020. I want you to go through this quick take tool in personal planning and go through these reflection questions. And when you think about using these reflection questions, there are a lot of different ways that you can engage with them. Of course, you can think about them or meditate on them. You may also wish to write yourself a letter. Depending on your own sort of personal style, a letter might be a good way to go. And perhaps you are a little more technical and pragmatic and you want to write yourself a report or create a form that you're going to use to outline some of these reflective responses. I also see clients and friends recording videos just for themselves that really help them verbally process how they're feeling about how things have been going for them and the things that they are wishing for the future. You may also like to record an audio response, a voice memo. Some people don't like to see their face on the screen. It's a little distracting, so no video, but maybe an audio response that you can listen to later. And I also think that guided meditation is a great approach as well. So as you launch into your planning and goal setting for 2020, you might hit up YouTube or Google or an app that you have on your phone or tablet and ask for a guided meditation on successful goal setting. That's something that I've done and have some bookmarked over on YouTube that have been a good way to just get in the right mindset so that I can clear out the things that are distracting me when I am actively planning and goal setting, because active planning and goal setting is the key to success. We can't be passive about it. So first step, personal planning, quick take, ask yourself these important questions. How are we going to answer these questions? Well, perhaps it's going to be an active reflection using one of these strategies. So the next thing that I wanted to share with you is something that I'm pretty proud of that I've been working on over the past, several years really, is looking at a framework for powerful planning and goal setting. Because being a small business owner myself, I am constantly engaged in the practice of goal setting and planning. I have to be aware of activities that I need to engage in on a day-to-day basis or tasks that I need to accomplish in order to meet my obligations to clients and colleagues and friends and family. And I also need to be able to step aside and envision what the future might look like for my business and how I am on target to achieve my own personal mission, which is to leave all of the people that I meet around me a little bit better than they were when I found them. So whether that's a little happier, a little more organized, a little more confident, with clarity in HR, whatever it is, I'm trying to make sure that all of the activities in which I engage, that they really are grounded in the idea that I am in this world to make it a better place and help others. So I keep that central to my goal setting and my planning framework. The framework has 6 different parts, and they're built on the word impact. And I'm going to share with you what those 6 different parts are, and then we'll dive into each of them for just a moment. So the first one is intention. If we want to plan for impact, we want to be meaningful. We want to take meaningful steps. We want to be practical. We're going to plan in alignment. We'll talk about that in a moment, tell you what that means. We're going to be consistent, and we're going to be willing to tweak our plans. So let's jump in. So the first part here, the first part of the framework is the I in impact, and that was intention. We need to set our intentions. We need to have a vision for where we're going. So lots of folks talk about creating a vision board or a vision book this time of year, which is a great first step in determining what you would like the next year or 2 or 5 or 10 years to look like. But the activity can't stop with intention, and that's why this framework has 6 parts. But first of all, we do need to create our intention. We do need to cast our vision. We think about it like this. You wouldn't get on a ship if you didn't know where that ship was to sail. And you would, of course, hope that the captain of the ship would have a vision of how the ship was going to arrive in its port and, determine what that looks like and what the fruits of the labor might be, right? So we need to create a vision, see that other shore, and then start working to get there. Picture ourselves there. And I also think that it's important to share your vision with your friends or family. Perhaps there's a coworker, your best friend at work maybe, with whom you'd like to share your intention or your vision. And this sharing creates accountability. So when we do share with other people what our intentions are and what our vision is for the future, they can help hold us accountable and can check in on us and also provide us with necessary resources along the way. So that's the I in impact. Now we have the second piece, which is meaningful, the M. So like I mentioned, in terms of my planning and goal setting, when I am building my business or engaging in charitable activities, donating my time or my money, I'm always doing it with the intention to help others around me just come out in a better place after we've had time together. So we're making our plans and goals meaningful. So we go back to our reflection questions and we determine what our why is. So why are we planning to accomplish A or B? Why are we planning to step into achieving goal C or D? So we determine our why, and then we can work on from there. So just to give you a little bit of idea of how this has played out again in my life as an example, when I decided to leave my corporate human resources or career, and move into consulting, I did so for a couple of reasons. So the first reason that I did it is because I felt like there is such a great opportunity to create a positive ripple in the world through human resources when we are able to touch with small businesses. So small businesses with less than 100 employees are the most common in the United States. And so as an HR consultant, I spend a lot of my time working with people in smaller organizations and teams within larger organizations to really create positivity, to open communication, and to increase collaboration between groups that are stuck. And so that's kind of my why. So when I do that, I hope that it creates a positive ripple, that I'm able to help people build relationships and really build positive relationships where maybe they were lacking before. So that's part of my why in terms of why did I leave a corporate HR career to start a consulting firm. But also another reason that I made that big decision and big jump was so that I could engage in activities that would support my family and my community as well. So being available to my children and having the flexibility to support them however they need it as they get older, they're teenagers now. That was one of my pieces. And then also I wanted to be able to donate some of my time, possibly serve on boards and things like that for nonprofits that were meaningful to me. And so for the last almost 3 years, I've been a volunteer board member for an organization called Steps of Love, for example, which is a nonprofit organization that provides educational resources and basic needs resources for students in Mexico, Arizona border towns, specifically one called Puerto Peñasco. So those are my whys. So why are you going into this planning and goal setting session, and how does that link back to your larger goals in life? Because everything can't just be about work, right? We can't just be focused on the next project and the next client and the next achievement in revenue or profit. We have to also say, well, gosh, how is this filling my bucket from a personal standpoint? Or what kind of values or beliefs is this filling for me in my life outside of work? So let's make it meaningful. So first of all, we want to make sure, again, back to the I, that we are setting our intentions and creating vision, and that vision is meaningful to us. And then we really get down to, let's call it the nuts and bolts here. We want to keep it practical. And the best way that I thought I could describe this is this quote by Theodore Roosevelt that says, "Be practical as well as generous in your ideals. Keep your eyes on the stars, but remember to keep your feet on the ground." So keeping our vision, our, that intention, and then the meaning behind it, the why is super important. But then as we step into goal setting and task management, we have to keep it practical. And so I'll share with you some tools very shortly that you can use, or strategies that you can use to keep things practical. The next thing that we want to remember here within the framework is to maintain alignment. And so our goals for the year that is upcoming should align with past learning as well as our long-term future plans, and should always align with our values and our beliefs. And I just alluded to that previously when I was talking about our goals and plan being meaningful. We want to make sure that we are learning from our experiences in the past and our journey so far, and that we align those learnings with our long-term plan and future. So for example, when I decided to pursue my master's in business, I already had a Bachelor of Arts degree in Spanish literature. And as I was deciding what my sort of midterm goal was back in, gosh, it was probably about 2000 now, so about almost 20 years ago, determining what the next 10 years might look like, I was ready to make a shift in my career out of community service and into human resources business practice. And so I decided that my goal would be to start my master's in business program. And I did so knowing that the things I had learned over the past 10 years, the things I love to do at work, were more aligned with business functions. And so rather than seeking a master's in arts in some area, I decided to make it my mid and long-term goal to pursue a business education and an MBA. And as I did so, I aligned that with my values and beliefs along the way. So I've always been dedicated to helping people just live a happier, more fulfilling life. And so as I did my work study, my master's study, and my work and growing my family along the way, I've always kept that central. All right. So now we've gotten about halfway through here. We've talked about the fact that we first set intention or vision. We get centered around our why, making our plans and goals meaningful. We remember that they need to be practical though, and again, we'll look at tools for stepping into practical goal management. We align our goals and plans with the past learnings and journey and our values and beliefs. And now we want to make sure that we stay consistent. And so I chose a quote again to illustrate this point from Dwayne Johnson, so Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, right? So success isn't always about greatness, he says. It's about consistency. Consistent hard work leads to success. Greatness will come. And I think that that is succinct enough to make the point here, that as we work on long, mid, and short-term plans, doesn't matter which one we're working on, that it is super important to stay the course. There is a lot of value in consistency, because the more consistent we are, the stronger we get in a particular area. So again, I might think about it from a learning perspective. I grew up in Minnesota speaking English as my primary language and decided to study foreign languages when I was in middle school and high school, and went on to study Spanish literature in college. And if I hadn't been consistent with those studies, I would not be fluent and bilingual today. So I can read and write and speak in Spanish fluently. And it is only because of the hard work that I put in year over year over year. And in the 20 years since I've graduated from college, it's been very important to find other ways to be consistent, because I'm not in school, so nobody's forcing me to practice. So it's my job to make sure that I'm listening to music and podcasts and reading news articles and books in Spanish to keep my language fresh. And another way to look at it, maybe outside of education, I picked a picture of this garden with the watering can to illustrate the idea of consistency. So we know that gardens can flourish when they have good soil, light, and water. And a little bit of that every single day makes for a beautiful garden, a beautiful flower garden, a beautiful herb garden, a vegetable garden, whatever we're trying to grow. But the garden needs to be tended every single day. The soil's kept fresh and full of nutrients. The sun needs to shine at least a little bit every day, even if it's through the clouds. And a little bit of water needs to be poured over top to make sure that everything is in the right condition. So let's stay consistent with our goals and our plans. Let's not let them fall off to the wayside when we get busy with day-to-day life. And the last part of our impact framework is tweak. So tweak your plan as needed. This is super important to me, both as an individual and a professional, that we become flexible and that we allow grace for ourselves and for others when we are working on goals and plans. So there are certainly times in life when our goals need to be accomplished absolutely on time and on track, and they can't be late, and that's understandable. Like tax day, you can either file for an extension or you can file your taxes, but either way, one of those things needs to be done by April 15th, and that's that. But even if the filing up or the filing extension is what needs to happen, that's adjusting course and keeping going, right? We have responsibilities and we have things that we need to accomplish, but sometimes we need to be flexible about how and when those things are accomplished. So for example, lots of my friends and family have recently talked about going back to school, whether it's to finish a GED or get started in an associate's program, a bachelor's or a master's program or beyond. I have heard lots of folks talking about getting excited about perhaps going back to school. And I think that that is super exciting. And if I didn't work all the time, I would probably just be a perpetual student. So what I hear though is oftentimes that I'm not sure if I'm ready to go back. And so it's important to take stock of what's going on in your life and be flexible with your own schedule. And instead of going back full time, maybe you just take one class. Or instead of going back to a class with a school or a college or university, maybe you just get a book on the topic that you're loving and wanting to learn more about, and you start exploring it a little bit less formally. So tweak the plan as needed, be gracious with yourself, be flexible, but take consistent steps, again, to walk in the direction of your plan and your goals. So that's our framework. That's our Planning for Impact framework, which started with intention, making it meaningful, keeping it practical, staying aligned, being consistent, and being willing to tweak things as needed. So I promised you a little bit of practical advice here too about, okay, well, how do we do this? So we have maybe an overarching goal. A top priority is to maybe go back to school. Let's use that as an example. So go back to school for an associate's degree. Let's start there. So top priority is to get registered for school, maybe in the next 90 days, right? And so within those 90 days, I have to go visit the school, and that could be one of my 30-day projects. And I need to complete my application. That could be another 30-day project. So my top priority is to start my associate's degree or complete a year of school. You can phrase it however you'd like. And then my 90-day goal is to get registered, get started. 30-day project, visit the campus, and 30-day project is enroll. So my weekly goal would be to download a map or the app for the school. And then my daily task could be to go drive to the school and visit the library and perhaps visit with someone from the department in which I would like to study. And maybe over on this other side of the chart here, where we're talking about our other daily task, maybe that daily task, which comes down from our project of enrolling, our task would be to stop in at the registrar's office and drop off necessary paperwork, or go to the school and use one of their computers to complete it rather than trying to do it on your laptop at Starbucks or something like that. So definitely break it down and make it so that your plan is cascading into goals, projects, and tasks. So as you work to develop your ideas around your plans and goals for the next year, I'm going to have a special invitation for you at the end to be in contact with me, but I would love to help you outline your priorities, goals, and projects, as well as some tasks that you might engage in that will be helpful in the achievement of your plans. All right. Okay, so now that we have our framework laid out for planning for impact, as well as an idea of how those plans can cascade into goals, and I just mentioned that you're going to be setting some goals at different intervals, so you might have a 90-day goal and then weekly goals, each of which are accomplished through tasks. And so we want to use this SMART framework for goal setting. And so that's where our second handout comes in for today. So in your attendee control panel, you should be able to download this one-page SMART Goals quick tool. And so what we want to do is make sure that we are able to quickly summarize our goal. So what are we wanting to do? We're wanting to take a tour of the campus. And so we want to be specific about that. We want to say, okay, take a tour of the campus with my son or with my husband or my cousin. Somebody's going to go with me to get me excited and share the experience with me. And in order to do that, I need to register for the tour. So I'll be measuring that I am on track because I'm registering for the tour, and I can, of course, measure when it's complete on the day of the visit. And how attainable is your goal? We want to check in for that. Is there anything you need to do first? You need to plan for transportation. Do you want to take a bus? Do you want to drive your car? Do you need a ride from somebody else? And so make sure that your goal is attainable and that you are going to be able to achieve it. Your campus visit, perhaps, as we're using as an example. Is it relevant to your larger personal or business related goals? Well, I hope so, absolutely. As we attain higher education, it helps us to create additional earning power and expand our horizons. And then what's the deadline? So what's the date that you're going to be taking the tour, and check it off when it's done. So that's what SMART goal setting looks like. So if you have questions about how SMART goals work, again, this is a great topic for follow-up if you would like to have our private coaching call. All right, so as we continue down this path, so we talked about planning for impact. Well, first we actually talked about the power of reflection in planning, that before we step into even the framework for planning and goal setting, we want to be able to be reflective so that we can identify our why and align with our values and beliefs. And then we've got our framework. Now we're talking about some practical strategies for setting goals using SMART goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. And now, how do we do these things though? Like, what's the bottom line, right? Can I really make moves in my life that will help me come out maybe a little bit more successful from my definition, or happier, or feeling more productive, or having achieved a major goal? Okay, so some of the things that we know are helpful for people who are engaging in planning and goal setting is to do things like go to bed 15 minutes earlier and get a little bit more sleep. Or perhaps it's wake up 15 minutes earlier so that you can feel more prepared for the day. Activities like looking at your calendar each morning, engaging in planning for the next week when Friday comes. So planning a week ahead is a great goal, a great way to sort of engage in personal effectiveness behaviors. And also come up with your very own time management mantra. And so mantras are simply things that we tell ourselves in order to ensure that we are staying positive and we are looking at being successful. So a time management mantra might sound something like, I have plenty of time and energy to complete everything I need, and anything I can't complete, I'll figure it out. So just something to sort of set yourself up for success and get yourself in the right mindset to be personally effective. So when we are thinking about different strategies for organizing, so I'm going to actually scooch through here. I got my slides just a tad out of order. There are two strategies that I want to talk about that help us to organize our goals and tasks that will then be, they will enable us to achieve our goals and our overarching plans for ourselves. So the first strategy is time boxing, and the second strategy is assigning priorities. So the first strategy here, which is again called time boxing, is the practice of setting aside a specific block of time to accomplish a task. So perhaps it's getting registered for the campus tour that we talked about. And so that takes about 15 minutes. I just did one for my son. So I know it took me about 15 minutes to find the spot on the website for Northern Arizona University and locate the tour schedule, select one, enter all my personal information, and his personal information and get us registered. So Timeboxing, setting aside a certain amount of time for a specific task. These tasks will help us to accomplish our goals and our overarching plans. Timeboxing, there's a pretty good article that is from the Harvard Business Review that you can actually download. You can read a few articles for free every month. So this might be a good one to take a look at if you're interested in the topic of timeboxing. And it talks a little bit about why timeboxing might be a good strategy for people to take a look at. And so it says timeboxing. This is especially important because control may be the biggest driver of happiness at work. And constant interruptions make us less happy and less productive. So the feeling of being in control of our own time is a huge driver of success and happiness, both at work and again, I would propose in life. And when we are constantly taken off task or interrupted, we can be less productive, of course, because task switching from one thing to the next and one thing to the next can be disruptive in our thought process, and we can make mistakes. And it might make us less happy because we're not able to be consistent about accomplishing things. So timeboxing, do go ahead and set aside blocks of time on your schedule, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, to accomplish tasks that will, again, roll up into the accomplishment of your goals and your plans. Now, our second strategy that I did want to share is one that I've talked about before. So several months ago, we did a session on time, task, and priority management, and that's in our HRAnswers.org training library. And so if you want to go back and take a look at that, or you need the link for it, let me know. But there is a whole time and task management session that might be a good follow-up to this one. But we want to be able to assign priorities when we are thinking about the tasks that we need to accomplish that are just day-to-day tasks, or tasks that are important to us achieving our goals. So we can do this in a lot of different ways, and this Eisenhower matrix is one that I've liked over the years, especially when things start feeling really hectic. So if I'm starting to feel like I have just way too much on my plate, I go to this matrix and I use it by listing in the different quadrants the things that are urgent and important. Those are the things I need to do first. The things that are not urgent, but they are important, I need to plan them out for the future. So not happening today, maybe not happening this morning, but maybe this afternoon or tomorrow. If something is not important, but it's urgent, I'm going to see if there's someone that I can delegate the task to. And if something is not urgent and it's not important, then I've identified it as something that I can eliminate. And so when we think about why we would want to organize our priorities in this way, using the Eisenhower matrix or some other type of strategy, it's because when we are able to organize our priorities, we can be effective and efficient. And so we're spending our time on things that are both important to us, so they're filling our need to accomplish our whys and keep on track with our vision. And we're not doing just the things that seem urgent, not just putting out fires. And so in order to organize priorities, we need to minimize the stress of having too many competing tight deadlines. And when we do that, then we can distinguish between important and urgent tasks, and we are able to do a much better job of getting ourselves organized to then block our time, so we can time box once we assign our priorities. So as you go through thinking about, well, gosh, I have these tasks that I need to accomplish in order to get my goals checked off so that I am able to accomplish my overarching goals and my plan for 2020 and beyond, you'll want to have the right tools in place. And so you might have paper calendar, you might have an app or a smart speaker that you tell important reminders to. You might have an electronic note-keeping strategy. There might be something else that I don't even know about that you're using. But you'll want to put together all of your tools and decide if you're going to keep track of personal and business and family all in one place, or you're going to keep it separate. Those are all personal decisions about how you manage your time and your energy. So get the right tools in place, the ones that feel most natural to you. Go ahead and use them. And again, be willing to tweak or modify, though. If a tool that you adopt is not working for you, then be willing to try something else, right? So I have a particular calendar that I use. It's called a Passion Planner, and I've been using it for about 4 years, and it works for me. I think it's a great way to have overarching annual goals that are sort of fed by my mission and my vision and some longer term goals, and then to keep track of my time blocks right on the calendar and assign priorities as well within each week. It has a monthly calendar and it has a monthly reflection. So it allows me to pause every time that I'm turning from one month to the next and say, gosh, what went well? What would I have done differently? Who did I meet this month that really blew my socks off? Who do I need to think about meeting next month that will, help me in my next phase of my journey, and who can I help next month, and what are my commitments? So find a way to keep track of it all. I track everything personal and business and family all together. I stopped trying to track it separately a few years ago, and I find it a lot easier to be able to manage my mindset when I know what is coming from both business and family perspective. So those are some of the things that we have to think about when we are trying to get it all done. Okay, so I promised that I was going to give you a special gift or an invitation here. And so the invitation is, let's get going on this. And in the final slide here, you are going to have a reminder of my email address. It's real simple. It's just N as in Nikki, so N Ramirez at hranswers.org. I want you to send me an email and share one of your top priorities in 2020 and share your best mailing address as well. And when you do this, I am going to send you back a special notebook that you can use to keep notes about your dreams and your progress throughout 2020. So that's my special gift invitation to you as you consider options for moving forward with these ideas that we've talked about today. So in summary, I want you to get ready to take some action. So you're going to gather the tools that you're going to use for planning and goal setting. You're going to set your intentions through reflection. You're going to break it down using our action planning strategy, where maybe you have an overarching goal for the year. And from there, it cascades down. Maybe you have your top priority and it cascades down into your 90-day goal, 30-day projects, weekly goals, and daily tasks. You're going to try something like Timeboxing or using that Eisenhower matrix in order to organize your priorities and make sure you're allocating time to complete each of your tasks. And then you're going to please ask for help when it's needed. So of course, every one of you who are participating in this session, whether it's live today or it's a recorded session, you are invited to contact me for a 15-minute private follow-up call. And that is always the invitation that I give you in these sessions. So it's one thing to take some time out, 45 minutes or so, to think about what it looks like to successfully plan and goal set. And it's an entirely different thing to go at it yourself. And so I want you to remember that you're not alone. Of course, you have, I'm sure, friends and family that are willing to help you, colleagues, coworkers, maybe your leader at work. And I'm here too. So definitely let me know when I can be of assistance, even if it's just helping you identify a couple of activities that you can engage in to help you accomplish a goal. All right, for my high achievers, there's always an extra credit assignment here for you. So a few books that I recommend on the topic of planning, goal setting, and time management and accomplishing tasks. So the first one is called Start With Why by Simon Sinek. The next one is called The Happiness Advantage by Shawn Achor. And I really like that one because it ties into my own why. Eat That Frog is a productivity book, and Clockwork is a book about designing a business to run itself. If you're a small business owner like me, you can also apply the same strategies to running a department within a larger organization or in your own personal life. And I have a good friend, her name is Amber De La Garza, and she has a fabulous podcast on productivity. And so as you really get going and you are able to identify what your plans and goals are for 2020, you may want to check out the Productivity Straight Talk podcast with Amber, and she will also give you some really great actionable strategies for getting things done and kind of getting out of your own way. So those are some extra credit ideas that I wanted to share. And in closing today, you are welcome to send me your questions, your comments, and of course that email letting me know what your top priority is for 2020, and of course how I can help you to achieve it. And I will send you back a special gift if you give me your mailing address. I will give you a special gift of a notebook to keep track of your priorities for 2020. So that concludes our time together for today, talking about keys to powerful planning and goal setting for 2020. And it's been a pleasure to be here with you. And I will just pause for a moment to see if any of our live participants would like to send in a question. And if not, then we will close up our time together, and we will be launching a 2020 training series that you will all be invited to. And if you have questions or comments or suggestions about training seminars, webinars that you would like to see in 2020, I would love to hear your feedback and your ideas. So again, reach out. And not seeing any questions coming in, I will go ahead and conclude our time together today. And again, it's Niki Ramirez here, your HR consultant with HRAnswers.org. It's been wonderful to be here. And please do take just a moment to fill out the post-session survey when we close up shop here today, and be in touch so that I can help you have a spectacularly fabulous 2020. Thanks again for joining us. Bye-bye now.